is Angie. Thank you for coming back to my channel where we talk about faith, friendships, and lifestyle. Now, today we're going to talk about how to garden a friendship. Like friendship is like a garden, and how do you tend to it? And I'm borrowing this from my own personal love for gardening. I am an avid gardener. I enjoy gardening, and my most favorite plants are roses. Now, this last weekend, I was working on my garden, and I was just thinking to myself how tending to a garden is very similar to how we tend to friendships and just relationships in general. They require nourishing, they require, just truly babying them and really caring for them. And it's very, very similar to how relationships are. So what I did this weekend on my rose garden, one was pruning. In the summer, you will prune, but you won't really prune the branches off like you would in the fall. You do what we call deadheading, where you're just pruning the blooms that are withering, that are drying out. So I did some pruning, and then I fed the roses and I treated them for insects and fungus. So and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then talk about how you apply that in a relationship, particularly a friendship relationship. So with pruning, the reason why you're doing it is because if you don't remove those plants, the flowers that are withered, what the rose plant will do, it's gonna go into trying to create seed. And so a lot of energy is gonna go in creating seed, and you're not gonna get as many blooms, or you're not going to get a rebloom as quickly. So you trim that off so that the plant can now focus on generating new fresh blooms. So once you trim the blooms that are kind of gone, you also trim off any branches that are broken, any dead leaves, anything that's not fresh, good, and healthy, and you will only leave what's good and healthy that's going to help the plant generate new growth. So you do that. That's one thing. Second thing, what is left, you now feed it. So you put some plant feed. It can be manure, it can be, sometimes you can buy some plant feed, and you don't do it every so often. You'll maybe like do it once a month, or sometimes it's in the springtime, and then again maybe in the summer. So you don't do it every single time, but you need to feed the plant regularly. So then after that, the other thing that you need to do is treat for pests and fungus. Particularly living out in the south, we get a lot of fungus because we're in a hot, humid environment in the summer. So you need to do that, and if you're gonna get a healthy rose, you need to do that every 2 weeks. So this weekend was my 2 weeks, and I'm always out there putting some neem oil and spraying it on the rose bush to make sure that we don't have any insects that are coming out there to camp. And as I was doing that, I really truly thought about friendships, and I thought about how sometimes we want to be everything to everybody, and so you end up spreading yourself thin, and you have very, very shallow relationships with so many people. So you don't really have actual wholesome friendship with anyone, because you have these very shallow relationships with very many people. And to create an environment where you have a more wholesome friendship, a more vulnerable relationship, where you can truly thrive, you need to step back, think to yourself what matters to you, what's important to you, because what my friend looks like is not how your friend is going to look like. Again, it's an art. There's no right or wrong answer to it. It's what do you want, what matters to you. So you need to take a step back and figure out to you what's important, and then you look at the friends that you have, and every friend is important in their own way, and you're going to be a different friend to every friend that you have, but you just need to know who are the friends you want to invest that time in. And the ones that you don't decide to be more intentional with doesn't mean that you're gonna, sometimes you probably need to disconnect, but sometimes you don't generally need to disconnect. Sometimes it just becomes where you just spend time with them when you spend time with them, but you need to have an inner circle, a smaller group of people who you can be more intentional with. That way you can develop more wholesome relationship where there's more vulnerability, there's more openness. So that's number one. Prune the relationships that you're going to be more intentional with. And then the ones that are left, you need to feed those. You need to be more purposeful in how you spend time with those relationships. maybe it's visiting each other, finding activities to do together. Whatever it is that matters to that relationship, you need to feed that relationship, and you need to do it more frequently and be more intentionally purposeful. Like you have to you intend to be more purposeful in how you invest in that relationship, in how you grow that relationship. And even trying to figure out, like, what does this friend need, and what do I need for this relationship, right? That thing is trying to treat the things that are not positive. Sometimes you're a gossip, maybe you're the problem. Maybe being introspective and figuring out what do you need to stop doing versus what's not healthy that is happening that needs to stop. Maybe it's the other person is having those difficult conversations. Whatever the case may be, you need to treat that so that it can stop, because if you don't address those things, they're going to end up becoming a problem to you, to the relationship, to the friendship. In the same way, if I don't treat a fungus that's about to start, it's going to end up destroying the plant. If there's some bugs that are laying insects on the plant and I don't spray those and stop that from hatching, they're going to hatch and they're going to end up destroying the whole plant. So you want to identify what are those problem areas, have those difficult conversations, stay in that difficult conversation place so that you can address them and they can stop festering or becoming challenges. And really, and to close it all up, what you truly need to do is do these things consistently. Because if you do it once, like if you have a garden and you go out there and you prune it and feed it and do all these things, but you don't do it consistently, what's going to end up happening is you go in there once a year, and it's going to be like a big heavy lift where you're just ripping out the entire garden and replanting another one and trying to do all these extra things. You're not going to end up with a beautiful garden. If you want to have a beautiful garden, you have to do those small things consistently, purposefully, intentionally. Go out there in your garden and just pull out a few weeds. Because if you pull them regularly, they're not going to be weeding. You're just going to pull out a few things, tighten it up, spray a little bit, prune here and there, spray, that's it. So you do that every 2 weeks. And your garden stays fresh. Your garden stays beautiful. You have nice, fresh blooms all the time, versus just waiting over a long period of time and things just become bigger problems. So do those things and do them consistently. Again, we said prune, figure out who's your tight small circle, be purposeful, figure out what you need for that relationship, and do it consistently. And then figure out what is it that's a risk, that's a problem that could become a challenge in that relationship, and address that so it doesn't become a challenge, or if it's a challenge, it stops being a challenge. And don't be afraid to introspect, because sometimes you might be the problem. Again, thank you for joining me. This is Angie. Subscribe, share, and like. Bye-bye.